Hello you sexy beasts and welcome back to the channel and, well, War Thunder and a little bit of everything really. I've been gone for the past 2 weeks or so, except for the video I did on modern tanks, which is quite ironic given that just a couple of days after I uploaded that video, Tier 6 was announced, but more on that a little bit later. Essentially I just took a little bit of time off to be with my family. My brother came over from Germany and I went to my cousin's wedding. And that's pretty much it. But now my brother's back in Germany, I am alone with my mother at home once again, with nothing to do, so might as well start doing videos again. Now the footage you're going to see in the background for this video is going to be random footage from the last naval CBT round. I was going to use this footage to do kind of a review or a video in general, but then I thought it's too late at this point. I'll just wait until the next CBT round comes along, get some new footage and try to get rid of this one because it's really just taking up too much space on my hard drive. But enough rambling. What has happened in the world of War Thunder? Seriously, I can't go for a week or two and suddenly just everything comes at once. Of course, it just so happens to be the week where Gamescom was going on in Germany, which I couldn't go again, god damn it, I wanted to go last year already, and I wanted to go this year. But living in Portugal sucks sometimes in that plane tickets are excruciatingly expensive to and from Portugal. It's not even funny. Well. Now the first vehicle that we, or even the first hint that we got at patch 1.71 is not too far away, was a devlog on the Krupp-Steyr Waffenträger. Yes. This is going to be a German open-topped TD with a rotating turret actually, featuring the long 88mm cannon as is featured on the King Tiger as well. Or is it a pack? It might be a pack. I'm not too sure at the moment, but it's functionally the same thing, right? And honestly I'm not too excited about it. It doesn't really have any armor, it doesn't even have any mobility, this thing is not very mobile, and being an open-topped vehicle it's also going to be completely wrecked by anything with wings. Thankfully it does have a very low profile and a turret, which is big benefits compared to the other tank destroyers, at least the light tank destroyers in German line, but it's definitely not what's going to turn the camera on for the Germans, as was claimed in the devlog. And then the big bombshell. Gamescom 2017 bring the announcement of explosive reactor armor, composite armor, and tier 6 tanks. And this is bloody huge. Just to give you guys some context, this isn't 100% new in the game. We did have a April Fool's event where we saw modern tanks, which tested also the smoke mechanics that we now have in the game. The smoke mechanics were tested in the April Fool's event. The modern tanks were tested in the April Fool's event and apparently led into development of these Vietnam era tanks. And we also saw helicopters being tested in that game mode, which could also come in the future. It's not been denied that helicopters could come to War Thunder in a possible tier 6 aircraft rank. ERA of course meaning explosive reactive armor, which is mostly used to defeat heat shells, shaped charge shells. Composite armor being generally more useful against solid shots, but also against heat shells in certain cases, depending on the composite armor type. So let's take a quick look over the vehicles that have been announced so far, and what I think of them, and of the vehicles that haven't been announced but that have been data mined, leaked, stuff like that. The first tier 6 tank that was announced was the T-64A. This thing is scary. It is a Russian tank with an auto-loading 125mm smoothbore cannon, which can potentially also fire ATGMs. This tank has composite armor with over 450mm of effective armor on the upper glacis, which is very effective against shaped charges. The armor flaps on the side, as you can see by the image. Those are there to protect against shaped charge ammunitions whilst angling as well, where otherwise your side would be exposed, and as is with the case with most MBTs, where the side armor is extremely weak whilst the front armor is extremely strong. Well, you can to a certain degree angle with this thing and still be safe from heat FS shells. Not so much APDS, APDS, FS shells, those are still going to go through though. This thing is an 18.4 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which is not half bad. This thing should be rather mobile. This is the only Russian tank we know of so far. Next up we have a American one. and more of an upgrade of an already existing one actually. This is the M60A1 Rise passive modification. This is part of the ongoing modernizations of the M60 tank series and adds explosive reactive armor against shaped charges all around the hull and the turret. This tank will also get the M735 APFS-DS shell with a muzzle velocity of 1501 meters per second and 410 millimeters of penetration, so very similar to what you have on the current Chieftain Mark III and V, for example. Next up, two tanks which are very similar but are going to go to two different tech trees. The Americans and the Germans are getting the MBT-70 and the Kampfpanzer 70 respectively. I did a little bit more research on this tank and it is really quite interesting. This was a joint development between America and Germany in an effort to create a tank that was just really the top of the line of technology at that time. It features a 152mm gun, which is a longer barreled and improved version of the gun that we currently have on the M551 Sheridan and the M60A2 Starship. Although this one is auto-loaded and it can fire 80 gems, your regular HFS shells, HE, standard munitions, but it also has an experimental APFS-DS shell, which should be able to penetrate over 420 to maybe even 450mm of armor. Now before you write it in the comments, yes, the German tank, the Kampfpanzer 70, was envisioned at least to use a 120mm smoothbore gun, but it was never fitted, and as such, the German one's also going to get the 152mm. On top of the already very big main cannon, it also gets a very big machine gun on top. It has a deployable 20mm cannon on the top of the turret. This cannon is going to absolutely wreck aircrafts, light vehicles like for example the M50 Ontos, which we're going to talk about in a bit, and even other tanks from the side. Now in real life you could deploy this cannon so it could be hidden essentially behind turret in the flat position facing the rearward, which will give it a lower profile. So I'm not too sure if we are going to get that ability. It would be kind of cool, so you can choose between having the machine gun out to, for example, destroy enemy explosive reactive armor plating, which you can do, by the way, with I think it's 50 caliber munitions and up, or if you want to have it down and keep more of a stealthy profile. Now the armor of the MBT-70/Kampfpanzer 70 is designed to defeat APDS shells at 800 meters and more. However, it is weak against shaped charges. The main difference between the two tanks is the engine it uses. The American one uses a 1470 horsepower diesel engine, while the German one uses a 1500 brake horsepower engine, also a diesel. Now, both tanks should have a top speed of 64 km per hour on roads, and they can go this fast both forwards and backwards, much like the RU-251 for example, which should make this tank faster than the Leopard. And the latest devlog that has been released so far, keep in mind that more devlogs might be released until this video is released, was the M50 Ontos. Ontos being the Greek word for thing. This thing is quite horrifying indeed. What you're seeing there is a small, light tank with 606mm recoilless rifles, which are already in the game actually. These are the same recoilless rifles as mounted on the Type 60 SPRG and the Japanese tech tree. The double barrel shotgun, as I like to call it. Of course, this one's going to be quite a bit bigger, with triple the firepower. Now, recoilless rifles work a little bit different from regular tank cannons. With a tank cannon, you generally have to have some kind of recoil compensating system to not blow the turret clean off your tank. Famous examples, for example, would be the KV-2 that couldn't even fire the gun over the side without fear of dislodging the turret. Recoilless rifles solve this trouble by firing gases backwards, as well as propelling the projectile forward. So essentially part of the explosion that's used to propel the shell forwards is also used to counteract the force of the recoil. This has of course the benefit of recoil being very low, not completely non-existent, but very low, and as such being giving you the ability of mounting bigger guns that you otherwise couldn't mount on smaller chassis. But it also has the drawback of massively reducing the muzzle velocity. Any of you Type 60 SPRG drivers can confirm this. The shell is not very fast, it's only like 310 meters per second or something like that. It's quite bad, which forces you to kind of use it more at closer ranges. Thankfully the M50 Ontos will be quite a fast little tank, and it has a 380mm penetration value on its Heat FS shells. Now of course you don't have any armor to speak of. It should be resistant to 50 caliber ammunition, much like the Type 60 is, although slightly better since the crew will be completely hidden, unlike in the Type 60 where you can actually shoot out the gunner. But it won't really be stopping any 20mm, even 14.5mm rounds. Now the biggest problem with the Type 60 was the ammo load. It only can carry 10 rounds, and even then you cannot reload the secondary barrel in a cap zone. I hope you can reload the other barrels in the cap zones for the M50 Ontos, because else it's just going to be a gimmick. Why would you have 6 barrels anyways? But from what I was able to research, this thing has 18 rounds in reserve. Now I do not know if this already includes the 6 rounds in the barrel, or if it's bonus reserve ammo, giving you a total of 24 rounds. In any case, this thing has a lot more rounds than the Type 60. It is however also much bigger, much less stealthy, and I'm not seeing this thing being too effective really, especially on wide open maps. Closed city maps? Maybe, definitely, just shotgun it. Fire all 6 barrels at the same time. Long range maps, not so much. But those are not the only vehicles that we're getting in patch 1.71. No, there have been leaks, there have been data mines, there's been a lot of talks about many vehicles. The first one I want to talk about is the XA38 Grizzly. This is a twin-engine American aircraft with a 75mm cannon in the nose. Now if you heard about this aircraft before, it is because this has actually been kind of spotted in the game files a long while ago, even before the Operation Summer event, where the cannon system, which is unique to this aircraft, was suddenly spotted in the game files, which led many to believe that the XA38 would be the Operation Summer Tier 2 aircraft instead of the Key 94. That didn't happen, so instead we are going to get the XA38 Grizzly in War Thunder without being an event. I'm not sure if it's going to be a premium, not sure if it's going to be a regular tech tree, but it's going to be a damn good attacker, hopefully. Next we also have the BMP-1. This thing has been spotted already in the trailer, it has been spotted in a leak, and it is a 73mm gun which isn't even auto-loaded. Should still have a decent fire rate. It seems to have a 300mm shaped charged shell, 300mm penetration of course, but also has low accuracy. The cannon doesn't seem to be very accurate at over 1 km. Now it does have 80 gems however, to compensate for that, so I can see a playstyle being, depending on the mobility of course, I can see a playstyle of using the 80 gems at long range and using the cannon at close range shotgun range or to defend yourself. But given that this thing doesn't really have much in terms of ammo, I'm not too sure how effective this thing is going to be. And finally we have another aircraft, which all you Brit boos are going to be very happy about. The de Havilland Hornet. I'm not going to say too much. You can look it up yourself. All I'm going to say here is that this is a twin prop that has a faster top speed than the Meteor jet at some altitudes. This thing is bloody fast. And this of course is far from everything. There might be more leaks and data mines I'm not aware of. There might be more dev blocks coming. At least from my contact, it seems like in about 10 days we're going to have a massive update or very important dev block. So keep an eye out for that. I also know of, oh god, this is bad now. This is bad now. So here's the thing, I actually know of 2 more vehicles that are going to come into the game. Which I know you guys are going to love, but I can't talk about it. What can I say? Okay, let's say it like this. I'll only give you a little hint. I'm not going to tell you what vehicles are coming. Freedom is coming back. Anyways, lads, hopefully you have enjoyed this little update. Do actually let me know what you think of the current information we have on patch 1.71 in the description. Actually, not in the description, but in the comments section down below. I actually want to hear the general opinion. I want to see what my audience thinks about modern-ish tanks with composite armor, explosive reactive armor and stuff like that. And tier 6 of course. It's going to be, well, a whole lot of grinding. I know that they are planning on reducing the tier 5 grind eventually, but it's not going to be on launch. No, tier 6 is still going to be a massive grind. Oh god. And besides, I'm going to be working on more videos, still working on the CAS rant, just finishing up on getting enough footage to, well, fundament my points essentially. Hopefully we can see some more naval CBT sometime soon. I do want to make a video on that as well, not just use my footage as background footage. I also want to start exploring doing more guides and gameplays on lower tier vehicles, since you guys really seem to like those, especially the Panzer IV that I did when I did a video in German. You guys seem to like that, so I should probably do more lower tier vehicles, since that's what a lot of people still play, so why not? Also, I might do a little speculation video of what the MT70/Panzer 70 is going to be like, playing the M60A2 Starship. For no other reason that the MBT-70 gun is pretty much an evolution of the Starship gun, so might as well try it out. Anyways lads, without further ado, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and as always, thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find